Dodgers. That's all LA would need as the Mets turned another no-name pitcher into Cy Young. Rookie Pedro Astacio held the Unamazes to just 6 hits. 4-zip, the final score. Oh my. Tonight, the Mets turn to Doc Gooden while the Dodgers will counter with Oral Hershiser. In the ring last night, fight fans down in Florida saw some quick business as a trio of boxers turned out the lights in a hurry. They saw not one, but 3 straight first-round knockouts. First, there was Lionel Butler in the orange trunks, who flattens Tony Tubbs into the ropes for KO #1. All right, then there was Dave Rayburn in the blue trunks, who lays out Eddie Avant with a barrage of punches, also in round #1. And finally, we have Billy Lewis in the white shorts, who just drills Jeff Kennedy, bingo, sending him into the ropes for 3 consecutive first-round knockouts. And finally, how about this for a major pro football diss? The Packers pick All-American Terrell Buckley in the first round of the NFL Draft. Today, Buckley turns around and signs a baseball contract with the Atlanta Braves. Something tells me there might be an NFL scout looking for a new job today. I'm Ron, and that is sports.
He wanted to be with a winner, I guess. Aren't the Braves ahead of their position?
Those fighters, are they bums of the month?
Those
the old
guys?
Bums of the month club?
Yeah, they could be. Yeah, I think they'd be right in there among the best.
Because who are they?
Nobody.
Where do those guys come from? And why are they fighting? Why are we watching?
These questions and more.
That's Channel 6. I'm Jensen.
And I'm Dana Todd of the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather. It's next. Ernie Nassif and I will be back at 11 o'clock. Good night.
Ross Perot, waiting in the wings. He tells CBS News he's ready to run again for president, but there's a big if. Also, an exclusive CBS News interview with Barbara Bush. The First Lady talks about abortion, family values, and her husband's health. Also, Eye on America. Tonight, a visit to Clarksdale, Mississippi, to get a gut check from hard-working Americans on how they view the subject of family values. This is the CBS Evening News. From the Astrodome in Houston, Texas, and the Republican National Convention, Dan Rather reporting, good evening. Independent Ross Perot confirmed today to CBS News that he is thinking again about running. Perot gave the confirmation to CBS News correspondent Scott Pelley in Dallas.
In an exclusive interview with CBS News, Ross Perot said late this afternoon he is standing by to re-enter the race for president. Perot says he does not want to run, but might be forced to if the 2 established parties do not propose what he calls hard-minded solutions to the nation's economic problems.
If both parties refuse to listen to the people, if both parties continue to listen to the special interests that gave them the PAC money, then if the volunteers came together another time and said, you've got to do it, we'd have a spirited conversation. It would be unforgivable if neither party would face these issues when the people want them faced.
You're available.
Only less like a fire extinguisher, you might say. If all else fails.
Perot's own plan in book form is being shipped to stores today. It opens with a warning. Our nation may confront a situation similar to the Great Depression. Perot proposes balancing the federal budget in 5 years with an aggressive combination of tax increases and spending cuts, including raising the top tax rate from 31 to 33%, a 50-cent per gallon gasoline tax increase, an order to federal agencies to cut spending 15%, and increases in Medicare taxes and premiums. It is a 118-page prescription that many analysts believe is too bitter to swallow.
Well, a candidate of a major party that runs on a platform like that would lose.
Perot is still funding offices in all 50 states and has paid for a new series of TV commercials. He says he's receiving thousands of calls and letters urging him to get back in the race.
My sense is when he dropped out, he got a lot more beat up than he thought he would. I don't think he wants to have his epitaph being that he was a quitter. I think he has several things that are coming forth, his book on issues and what have you. And I think he liked the limelight, so my sense is he'll get back into it.
More than 5 million people signed Perot petitions, and today he says he wants to protect their interests.
Only if they're ignored would you maybe run into what I call the escape hatch possibility, but I consider that 1 in 1,000 at this point.
No one can be sure where this is all leading, but by mid-September, Perot will almost certainly be on the ballot in all 50 states, with commercials on the shelf and his volunteer network still largely intact. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Dallas.
Here at the Astrodome, President Bush and Vice President Quayle will be officially re-nominated tonight. Today, the Bush-Quayle campaign was trying to put down a story started by the president himself about a possible shakeup in Mr. Bush's cabinet. CBS News White House correspondent Susan Spencer has our report.
The ticket rode a mock-up victory train into a GOP gala today, hopeful that the possibility of riding a real one in November is improving as the drumbeat of Clinton Congress bashing rolls merrily along.
The status quo is under siege, and the only way to break the deadlock in Washington is to clear out the dead wood on Capitol Hill, and I'm going to do what Harry Truman did. Take that case to the American people for a November decision.
The public still views Mr. Bush considerably more negatively than it does Governor Clinton. But CBS News overnight soundings find Clinton's negatives rising since the GOP artillery came out.
Now, you know what Bill Clinton wants for agriculture. He wants more regulation, not less. Environmental laws that are less flexible and more burdensome.
Clinton sounds like he doesn't think the public is going to buy it.
They've been pretty rough the last 2 nights, but it's all they know to do. They can't run on their record. It's the worst economic record in 50 years. They don't have any new ideas. They're basically promising to discover America if you give them a 4th straight term.
Bush spokesmen, meanwhile, were putting out a fire the president himself started. When trying to sell the idea of change last night, he promised a cabinet shakeup should there be a second term. Not to imply, spokesman quickly said, that there's anything wrong with the cabinet now.
Well, the president's just pointing out the historical patterns that there are always turnovers in a second term.
Housing Secretary Jack Kemp, who delivered a heartfelt speech on the president's behalf last night, was widely reported on the cabinet hit list. Mr. Bush called him this morning.
Said, please don't believe this stuff in the paper, and you've done a great job, and I want you to continue, so I'm taking the president at his word.
The man who is supposed to prevent such snafus arrived this afternoon. Jim Baker, still officially Secretary of State but unofficial campaign czar, is expected to oversee the final touches of the speech. It is said likely to include the president's version of why he broke his no new taxes pledge. But reporters are now being steered away from expecting any specific tax cut proposal or indeed anything very specific in this speech. The overriding idea, one source said, is quite simple. Make the country feel good about George Bush and very uneasy about Bill Clinton. Dan?
Susan, what's the read? How negative will the president be about Bill Clinton tomorrow night?
Of course, the Bush campaign doesn't call this negative. It calls it defining the opposition. I think before this crowd, you're going to hear a lot of definition. The definition is going to be that Bill Clinton is your typical tax and spend liberal, that you can't trust him with your pocketbook, much less your country. Family values will be thrown in to imply that Bill Clinton doesn't have any. I expect quite a bit of red meat.
Can we expect specifics on what the president plans to do about business, jobs, and the economy?
Well, that's got to be the other half of the equation. He has to reestablish his own credibility on the economy. He has to present what he has laughingly referred to as the vision thing, because after 4 years, a lot of people feel like they don't understand what he sees for the future. Dan?
Susan Spencer, down on the floor. Thanks. The official theme here at the convention tonight is, as the Republicans put it, family values. Labor Secretary Lynn Martin will deliver the Bush nominating speech. Also addressing the convention, Marilyn Quayle. But as Eric Ingberg reports, the highlight tonight will be the speech by the most popular Republican in America.
That most popular Republican is Barbara Bush.
The last time I looked, Ms. Bush, your popularity standing with the public was maybe 40 to 50 points ahead of the president.
No.
Has he come to you for advice on how he can...
No, and that's so silly because, of course, you can be popular when you don't have to make any decisions, when you're sort of not a threat to anybody.
Devoting herself to causes from illiteracy to child care, she has carefully avoided political conflict in the past. She's been more a sturdy helpmate than a political battler. But as the GOP confronted the abortion issue again, Mrs. Bush offered abortion rights advocates the only encouraging words they heard from the White House.
With so many women in the Republican Party now taking a pro-choice position,
which is great. I mean, that's...
What do you say to them? Is there room for them in this party?
Absolutely. We're the convention that is allowing pro-choice and pro-life people to speak. We're inclusive. We're not exclusive.
While sounding like an abortion rights supporter, Mrs. Bush argues that the focus should be elsewhere.
But I think we should be talking about the fact that there's no such thing as safe sex, and that children should abstain, and we should be teaching our children early that there are family values that are very important.
Beloved as the nation's grandmother and ghostwriter for First Dog Millie, she is also a savvy, sometimes tough political wife. But not as tough, she says, as Vanity Fair magazine portrayed her in a rare, uncomplimentary article.
A 1988 campaign staffer recalls that when she frowned, it had the capacity to send shudders through a lot of people.
Wow.
Is that the real Barbara Bush?
That's the 1992 political year. If you can't get to George Bush one way, knock his family.
She scoffs at any talk of presidential health problems.
Is his health
great? Absolutely great.
And yours?
Well, mine is fabulous, but I mean, I'm not running the mile as fast as I used to. I've taken up golf, and I'm terrible, and it's one of my heartbreaks.
She has a soft side which comes across in her public events, but there's no mistaking she has a steely side as well.
Is it true that your kids call you the enforcer?
Probably. Not to my face, of course. No.
Candidate wives will be in the thick of the campaign this fall, as evidenced by the many attacks made on Hillary Clinton here this week. And the Republicans are moving Barbara Bush out to a new partisan role as a symbol of what they say traditional attitudes toward families are in America. Dan?
Thanks, Eric. Still ahead on the CBS Evening News tonight. The United States and its allies prepared to take more Iraqi airspace. That story when the CBS News continues from the Houston Astrodome.
One for peace.
We are prepared to talk in this direction.
The first chance they'll have to do that will be next week at the European Community-sponsored peace conference in London. If the West accepts Serbian control in 2/3 of Bosnia, it will then mean that thousands of Muslims will need a new homeland.
Whole grain Total. Of course. Total is the only leading cereal that has beta-carotene, plus 12 other vitamins and minerals.
With this news about beta-carotene, I'm eating Total.
Of course.
There is news, quite a bit of it, beyond this convention tonight. The United States, Britain, and France have reportedly drawn up an ultimatum, a new one for Saddam Hussein. Stop attacking Shiite rebels or we'll shoot down your warplanes. But a spokesman for President Bush says there is no final agreement to put the plan into action. David Martin at the Pentagon has the latest.
British warplanes were getting ready today to return to the Persian Gulf to help enforce the no-fly zone the U.S. and its allies are about to create to protect the Shiites of southern Iraq. With a similar no-fly rule already in effect in the north, that does not leave Saddam Hussein much country to call his own. There is no question the U.S. and its allies have decided to take a harder line on enforcing the UN sanctions against Iraq. The question is, why now? Iraqi officials claim it's all a George Bush Make My Re-Election Day campaign.
They are looking for a provocative action to give them pretext for a military action, and this is to boost the re-election of Mr. Bush.
But George Bush is not calling the shots by himself.
The view taken in Paris by President Mitterrand and by me is equally as strong as that of President Bush in Washington. President Mitterrand and I don't have elections.
Saddam brought this new hardline upon himself by, among other things, refusing to let UN inspectors enter his agriculture ministry last month. The standoff was allowed to drag on so long that there was more than a little truth to what Democrats were saying.
If President Bush and Vice President Quayle are such whizzes in foreign policy, why is it that Saddam Hussein is thumbing his nose at the entire world.
In fact, Saddam is doing more than just thumbing his nose. His thugs are actually shooting at UN personnel.
It was a lot of bullets, and we were very lucky. We were 3 people in the car, and I was the only one hit.
George Bush and Saddam Hussein may be on a collision course in the middle of this presidential election, but it is Saddam who ultimately controls that course. He is the one who must decide whether to comply with or defy the UN resolutions. David Martin, CBS News, the Pentagon.
There's more CBS News straight ahead from the Astrodome, including wildfires spreading their heat in California. And all this talk about family values. But whose family and what values?
Now, you don't need a... Because jams are less than 20 calories and naturally fat-free. A real man's breakfast. With a name like Smucker's, it has to be good.
If they want to change America, they come to us to talk to you. CBS This Morning with Harry Smith and Paula Zahn.
Some good news about the economy made it into the Astrodome today after the tremor of yesterday about housing construction being down. The government reported today that the U.S. trade deficit fell last month as exports, it is said, hit a record high. More U.S. exports could mean more jobs for Americans. Residents of Anchorage, Alaska had a job today cleaning up after a volcano. The eruption of Mount Spur covered the city with gritty ash. The volcano, some 80 miles west of Anchorage, erupted yesterday, sending a plume of ash and smoke more than 10 miles into the sky. In California, the problem is brush fires and blistering heat. Correspondent Bill Lagatuda reports Californians are looking for a break in this long, torrid summer.
It's been so hot in California and so dry lately, it's a wonder more of the state is not on fire. Tonight, 10,000 acres of forest land in Northern California are still burning, and the heat wave is making the firefighting a brutal job. Temperatures are in the 100s, humidity barely 5%.
You gotta hook a hose on right there!
Today, people were evacuated near the small town of Murphys. More than a dozen buildings have burned. In Southern California, paying attention in school was tougher than usual today. It was over 100 here, too, and many classrooms are without air conditioning. This is how some teachers were forced to solve the problem.
Feel better?
Yeah.
Better.
It's like the sun is right in front of your face. Very hot. I mean, very hot.
It is so hot in the room, I can't sit for more than 5 minutes myself.
There is not enough money in the budget to buy more air conditioners, and some principals are giving up, letting the kids out early. Head to the beach for relief? This week, some of them were closed because of pollution, though most will open by the weekend, and just in time. Lately here, there's been a run on electric fans and wading pools and frozen yogurt. It's hardly Houston-style heat, and Californians do love the summer, but lately, it's been a little much. Bill Lagatuda, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Coming up next from the Houston Astrodome, the leading contender for the Republican presidential nomination in 1996.
This is the Bright Star primary audio circuit.
Some top Republicans are already getting themselves in position for the 1996 presidential campaign. A survey of the delegates here at this convention finds less than 6% want Secretary of State Baker to be the nominee next time around. Less than 10% like Vice President Quayle. The big favorite, supported by 1 out of 3 actual delegates, is Housing Secretary Jack Kemp.
My fellow Americans, the liberal Democrats just don't get it.
Jack Kemp fired his first shot last night in the 1996 race for president. So did Senator Phil Gramm. So did Governor William Weld. Pat Buchanan did it Monday night. Dan Quayle will do it tomorrow night. In Houston this week, political agendas come in all different sizes. For while George Bush is fighting to get reelected, others are looking ahead. And of all potential presidential candidates in '96, Jack Kemp is the overwhelming favorite of delegates to this convention.
I'm the Secretary of Housing.
Try to help us out, Mr.
Yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it.
The popular housing secretary calls himself a bleeding heart conservative. He wants to lead a conservative war against poverty. But Kemp does not often have the ear of President Bush, and within the administration, there's not much support for his policies.
The president doesn't say it the way I say it, but he's been there. He knows the problems. The leadership of the Democratic Congress is absolutely going to stonewall any attempt to give President Bush any legislation that would do what has to be done for our inner cities.
You heard Pat Buchanan's speech on Monday night. It was not just a world apart, it was a cosmos apart from Jack Kemp's speech.
There is a religious war going on in this country. It is a cultural war as critical to the kind of nation we shall be as the Cold War itself, but this war is for the soul of America.
I worry about the idea of some type of a jihad between the left and the right, some holy war. I like to think that while you can be conservative in your values, you can be progressive and reform-minded in your policies, and that's what I believe in.
Sounds good, but can any candidate, even a Jack Kemp, who is popular within his own party, ever get the party's nomination? Talking that way.
Ronnie Reagan got the nomination in '80 and again in '84. His conservatism was values as well as reform and change of the tax code. That's mine. Is it possible to be a good guy and finish first? I think a lot of people have proven that that's true.
Coming up next from Houston, Eye on America. It's time to forget about the politicians. You'll hear from real families about family values.